Thank you for having me.
First question. What is Dorm about?
Well, it is a story of two people coming into college and experiencing that new sort of life that, you know, I think a lot of college kids get scared about. Who am I going to meet? Where am I going to go? Am I going to make it? Am I going to be accepted? And sometimes that can turn into a dark side. And I think this film explores that.
Where did the concept come from?
It came from a conversation between me and my partner and co-star Calderon. It came from this conversation of, she do a story about a girl who's fragile. I think a lot of girls are fragile in terms of college and what they're going to do and who they're going to meet, and we kind of took it from there. A lot of improv came from that, and I love improv, so.
Oh, I love working with David. He's great. I love working with all my friends or with anybody. It's a lot of fun. But David is, we've had a history for a long time. Over a span of 20 years we've known each other, and we've always held each other's ideas in high regards, and working and collaborating with him is just wonderful. I always love working with him. It was definitely a very touching project, because it has to do with a lot of problems that people face, like maybe, you know, obsessions or suicidal thoughts, especially in that, I guess, coming of age.
Just go!
It was a very meaningful project to work on.
When she develops this sort of obsession, he's reaching out to her, and he can't quite get there. And the film itself is very, it's dark, it's raw, it's lonely. A lot of people can relate to that in their first years of college, or anything they do that's new. A job, a relationship, a friendship, anything that involves a new feeling, you sort of get that feeling. So I think that's what the film's about.
You play a lot of women who are unstable. Do you relate to these characters?
I think every woman is unstable. You know, every man is unstable also. But yeah, I do sometimes relate to a lot of the characters that I do play in my films, in our films. I mean, it's emotional. So yeah, it definitely does.
Who is in this film?
Well, myself, Calderon, and Christian Gonzalez, who had a small cameo, but it was it was important to the script, so every part's important. So.
Do you want to walk to physics with me? Well, I had a very little part in the movie, but when I saw it, something about it just called me. It was very real.
Yeah, I have that book. I gotta go. Can I call you later? Let me call you a little later.
You're new to the movie scene, actually. Any goals you have for working with Amanda and David?
Yes, actually, I believe we are working on another project now. I'm not really sure if I can speak about it. It's kind of in the works. But all I can tell you, it's going to be very raw and very real.
Oh, great. Well, you actually just starred in a new film called Death and Friendship. How was that experience?
It was amazing. It was very emotional, but I had so much fun.
Most of our films say written by, directed by, but we do a lot of things together. You know, I think ideas are thrown around. When I'm acting, Amanda sort of takes control, and I trust her to direct the film in the way that I want her to. And she always understands my vision for some reason. She's very in tune with what I want, and vice versa, you know. When Amanda wants something, she tells me she wants, and we just tune in. There's a sort of chemistry, and you can't go wrong. With the writing, with the amalgamation of Amanda's script and my direction, you can't go wrong.
I'm a writer first, and writing is very different from directing. You see it differently when you write it, and then when you direct it, it just seems to change. It just never seems to stay the way it is supposed to be in its original form.
Of course, it's hard to get it from your brain to the film, right?
Exactly.
And Under the Willow was your first SDC Wild Film Festival film.
Oh yeah, Under the Willow was a great film that Romero actually directed, and oh, he did a great job, and we found the perfect location, and it
And how do you remember that? Like, what was your best experience from that?
oh, the best experience was just being away from the city and just being out in the country.
Well, directing was my first passion. I had a lot of control issues growing up, and I think with films, you kind of have to have that killer instinct of, I don't care what anybody says, this is my vision, and I wanted to just, you know, it's that process from script, from idea, from script, to see it through fruition. So that's kind of where the killer instinct comes as a director. It comes from both those places. And as an actor, I think, you know, it comes from a healthy version of attention seeking. So that's where I think that comes from. It's a combination of both.
Oh well, acting. I mean, as a young girl, I would always act out, you know, movies and cartoons and musicals like The Wizard of Oz on my own. But when I found out that when me and David were younger and I found out of his love of acting, I mean, he really brought it out of me, and I never knew I had it, and he definitely brought that out of me.
So I think there's a lot of movies that come in that. 13 is a movie that I thought was brilliant. So there's a lot of films, mostly about women, which is very interesting. I love films about women.
Some scenes I was uncomfortable with, maybe probably the scenes where, you know, getting dressed, and because I mean, every woman is afraid to show her body on film. I mean, it's very personal.
Any upcoming projects in the future?
We're working on a remake of an old film that me and Amanda used to work on. It was called Phone Sex, which is kind of taboo in terms of titling, but I think it's going to work out well, and it's got a really strong message about relationships and how they change with time and what needs to be done in order to maintain a relationship, and even a sexual relationship. It's fairly interesting. I think people will understand.
It has to. It's going to be a very sensual film, having to do with womanhood, but also having to do with manhood and relationships. And it's going to be a very great project. It's called Phone Sex, and David Romero has actually been working on this film for. It's actually an old project of his, and we're actually, I guess, bringing it back to life because it's been hidden away for a couple of years. So now we're ready to just bring it back on screen now that we have a little bit better technology than we used to, a system to edit. So yeah, that's what we're going to work on, is just that film called Phone Sex. So it's going to be very interesting, very fun.
Well, do any of your personal relationships reflect on in any of your films?
Of course. A lot of personal relationships I have with just people I meet, strangers, friends, co-workers. I mean, everybody affects everybody's lives.
We are all amateur, especially in the independent film circuit. We're very amateur. There's been a lot of talk about how my films may not have production value and how my films may not be the most raw or always the most honest, but we're all there for the same reason, and that is to promote creativity and to make films that promote stories and lives and feelings that we can't all express in words, that we have to do it through our work. And it's very sad when people have negativity to say about films that are just like theirs. We're all there for the same reason, and that is trying to show our art, and it's all about art. And I have nothing negative to say about any of the people that are working in the film festivals today, but I hope that we can all enjoy the film, and that's the bottom line.
Dorm, Facebook, and YouTube. So tune in to TIMEBOMB Films at YouTube and watch our film here. I hope you really enjoy it.
This is David Romero. Enjoy the movie, and that's the bottom line.